Hello there, collectors, hobbyists, investors, and sports fans that aren't interested in the AFC North. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is our live closing show for our fall catalog auction. Huge event tonight. Over 2,600 items are going to be closing over the weekend. Tonight is session one, the cards, about half of those. We've got over 1,200 cards, sets, wax, uncut sheets, every possible cardboard variety you can imagine closing tonight. Session two will be the memorabilia tomorrow, and then final session is Saturday. So for tonight, session one, extended bidding begins at 10 p.m. Central Time. You have about 2 hours to get your bids in before extended bidding begins for all the cards and wax and sets and all the goodies we have closing tonight. With an auction that big, there's so many items. There's something for everything, for everyone. Many things have caught our eye. Many things are moving up the charts. There may be some good buys in there as well. And we're going to talk about it all night as we get closer to extended bidding. Very happy and honored to have joining me a hobby legend and luminary, and he loves it when I use these adjectives to describe him. So I'm just going to lay it on super thick. A man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to continue the introduction anyway. Heritage Executive Vice President, Mr. Joe Orlando. Joe, thank you for joining us tonight.
It is always a pleasure to be here, even if I have to endure that introduction.
It could be worse. I have a whole page here I just skipped over of
Right.
titles and everything. Another VP of ours requires me to list all his titles, Mr. Rob Rosen, but he's retired to Florida, and by this hour, he's been asleep for a couple hours. He had his Luby's dinner at 4 o'clock and turned in, so he won't be joining us tonight, unfortunately, but thank you for stepping in.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, so really exciting. When we have several different varieties of auction. We have our weekly auctions, which close every Sunday night. We have showcase auctions. We have our platinum auctions, which are the highlight events of the industry with some of the most premier and prestigious items. And then we have these fall and spring catalog auctions, which have incredible items, but are just huge auctions with over 2,500 items. So it's a lot of fun to go through it when we're putting the auction together once the auction's launched. But there's a lot of items. There's something for every type of collector, every whatever level you bid and buy at, there's something for you. But the important thing is it's hard to highlight so many items. So that's why we like to bring in some other members of the Heritage staff to talk about items that have caught your eye. Joe, you have one of the best eyes in the industry. So if I had to give you one item that you are most excited about in the auction, just one, what would you say it is?
Just one? Oh,
just one.
God. I always struggle with this. You know what? I would say maybe the first one that we're going to talk about tonight, the 1962 Topps box.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it. I love that one.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked in the past. As a matter of fact, we had one of these several months ago, and we were talking.
Unbelievably.
The unopened market has been very, very hot. There's more people coming into it. It's really grown over the past few years. And like we had just talked about, we had one several months ago that sold for, I believe, a little under $300,000. Now, this is a perfect example of where an item hasn't been offered publicly in a really long time. Then one sells, and that price actually ends up pulling another one out of hiding because, someone had been sitting on this for a long time. They saw the price that was generated and it pulled it out of hiding. And this one is at least equal to, in terms of condition and quality, to the one that we had before. And 1962 Topps, I mean, for those who are familiar with the set itself, and this is a Series 1 box, and that's I think one of the real keys here. It would be rare anyway, but the fact that it is a Series 1 box, that series is absolutely jam-packed with stars. I mean, you start with Maris at the top of the set. There's Clemente, there's Koufax, there's Mantle Mays, there's Banks, there's Musial. It is just jammed with stars. So not that anyone would want to risk opening the packs for the price of the box, but the reality is with unopened collectors, and certainly it's something that I found intriguing myself in recent years, is that, look, the underlying series, the underlying issue, the possibilities that lie within, of course, that affects the demand and the appeal of the box itself. So again, it's not just the rarity of a 62 box, it's the fact that it is a Series 1 62 box, and that is just a tremendous series with many potentially high value cards inside. So just a remarkable box, and you got to love the green and red colors just pop off the box. It makes for a fantastic display piece, but just an incredible piece of history and nostalgia.
And you hit it right there. One of my favorite things about the unopened items and the wax is the aesthetics. Something you don't get to see a lot on the vintage items and vintage cards like this is what the box looked like when it came into retail stores. And this is one of my favorites. It just screams that early 60s. And there's a lot to like just about looking at it, which I agree. That's what everyone should do. Do not open this.
That's right. I mean, graphics and condition matter in the unopened community. And it's something that I think has legs in the future. It hasn't really been completely sort of appreciated or leveraged yet because it's not unlike cards and autographs and some other items that actually have third-party grading. There's authentication for unopened, but there's not really grading for the eye appeal or the condition of the box itself. And if you just take, I mean, obviously we have tremendous high resolution images on the website, but when you blow this up, it is spectacular looking. In person, we have, I saw it in the gallery earlier today. It's awesome looking. So, I mean, again, you combine it sort of checks all the boxes: rarity, the Series 1 factor, the display, eye appeal nature of it. Just a terrific, terrific piece.
And that's one thing about that unopened wax. As you said, it's in our gallery this week. We also have our fine art auction is on display in the gallery as well. Great mixture. Some interesting classes mixing there. But our fine art experts are in the gallery. And that was an item when they looked at it. They don't know a lot about sports. But when they saw what it was, they said, how is this not opened? And should it be opened? It's an item that can intrigue even a layman. And that's the really cool part about the unopened wax genre.
That's right. And, eye appeal is eye appeal. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a painting or an unopened box or anything else. Your eyes are sort of naturally drawn to something based on the aesthetics. And a lot of unopened, product has that going for it. It really catches your eye because of the colors, because of the graphics. So it's a really fun space, and again, the support for that space has been growing in recent years.
Definitely. All right, what's next? How are you going to top that, Joe?
It's going to be hard to top that one, but we'll still have some fun. There's plenty of great items in the auction. So the next one on the list is the 1967 Venezuelan Topps Retorado Sandy Koufax card.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and for those who have been digging through the auction, they may have noticed there's a tremendous selection of Venezuelan cards, period, that came from a lone consigner. It's got to be the nicest assortment of Venezuelans that has ever been offered at one time at any auction. So it's very, very exciting for those looking for scarcity, because these were printed in much lower numbers, and usually when they show up, they are in very rough shape. There are some really beautiful examples, including this one. Now, for those who know about Sandy Koufax's career and how it sort of ended very abruptly in 1966 when he retired at the age of 30, it's really interesting because when it comes to Mickey Mantle, of course, when he retired in 68, they still made a 69 Topps card, because when he sort of let enough time go by before he made the announcement. So they decided to include him in the set on his own card, which is really cool because, as we know, especially in those days, people love to see the career statistics on the back, and you get to see his whole career basically on his final card. And it's a nice way to cap off that career from a collecting standpoint. Well, Koufax didn't have a 1967 Topps card in the regular series. So in my opinion, even though this card was included in a series, the Venezuelan series, kind of in the middle series. So you had Series 1, Series 3. This is in Series 2, which was largely dedicated to past stars, icons and legends of the past. To me, this is really his final career card. Some people may disagree, but really, this is one of the greatest names and the greatest pitchers of all time. And he's absent, at least on a single card, or where he's by himself in the 67 top set. He is pictured on some league leader cards because, interestingly enough, his 1966 season was arguably the best year he had. Some people may argue 65, but it was certainly just a spectacular year for him. Won the Cy Young, and his numbers were just incredible that season. But it just seems wrong that he didn't have that final career card. So to me, this is just it's a wonderful sort of replacement for that. It's much tougher than his 67 tops card would have been, of course. And it's really cool. Now, so you see Koufax there. He's looking towards the camera, and he's basically enveloping a baseball in his hand. Now, years ago, I just wanted to share this story, and I mentioned it to you guys before the show. Years ago, I was watching a tribute to Sandy Koufax that was televised, and Joe Torre was one of the people on stage with Koufax interviewing him in front of an audience. And again, for those familiar with Sandy, he's a very private guy. You know, he doesn't make a lot of public appearances, doesn't do a lot of interviews. So this was a really special night. It was a time to honor him. And at one point during the show, Joe Torre asks Clayton Kershaw, who was in the audience, a great, Dodger pitcher and a superstar already at that time. He said, Clayton, I want you to walk up to the stage. Do me a favor, put out your hand and put it up against, Sandy's hand. And here's Clayton Kershaw. He's 6'4", 225, 230 pound guy. He's a big guy. And you could see his hand. It looks like a child putting his hand in a man's hand. I mean, Sandy had these just enormous mitts. And another pitcher that comes to mind that was similar to that is Pedro Martinez. Just had really big hands. Perhaps that gave him a little bit more action on his pitches. But I remembered that moment, and every time I see this card, I think of that moment during the tribute and how funny it was. Of course, Clayton Kershaw walked back to his seat with his tail between his legs. After that, it's like, oh, look at this, walk back to his seat. It was just a funny moment during the tribute. And there happened to be an image of it online. So that was great to find that and share it with everybody. But bottom line is this card, it's one of the most underappreciated and tough Koufax cards out there. And I do think it has a special place because he didn't get that send off by Topps in the regular issue. Having this Red Dorado card, it's not exactly the same. It's certainly not apples to apples, but it's a nice way, I think, to cap off a career. And to me, it's his final career card.
And a really avant-garde image almost, as you talked about, with his hand in the foreground. Very unusual. In those late 60s, people were getting a little more experimental, particularly in the art world. And that's what this makes me think of is, not the traditional image for a sports card. And then also it has that turquoise, which really pops on this example as the background, which is just kind of an unusual look and makes it really unique.
Yeah, and how fitting that kind of turquoise, bluish background. It's Sandy Koufax, Dodger blue. It's a really great card aesthetically. It has the rarity. It's just and the image, I think, is just it's really neat. There's really nothing quite like that from his career, at least that I can recall. An image like that of Koufax on a card. So I love it. It rarely gets offered in high grade, and this is just a spectacular example.
Agreed. All right. What you got next, Joe? You're doing good so far.
This is a little bit more modern-ish era, but 1980 Topps Ricky Henderson in a PSA 10. Now, we're going to be talking a couple times tonight. At least I wanted to touch on a couple of items in the auction, a couple of players where I think this is a great example, or Henderson is a great example of someone who was able to do things in the game. And because of the way the game has changed since his retirement and the way the game is played today, I'm not so sure some of those numbers will ever get approached again. And so Henderson, we'll start with him and then talk about the card. When you think about some of the individual seasons that he had and then his career totals as a stolen base, as the all-time stolen base leader. I mean, in one season, it's hard to imagine anyone stealing over 100 bases in a season. And if I'm recalling correctly, didn't he have 130 one season? I mean, it's hard to imagine that because, again, the game has changed. There's concern of injury and that constant pounding to the ground that you have to do, because it's not just the stolen bases, it's the attempts and some of the failures as well, but just that pounding that you endure. I think just the game has changed so much, again, with obviously salaries have changed. They want to protect the players more today in all sports with, rest and that sort of thing. It's hard to imagine that number ever being approached again, single season or career. And I think that makes this more and more intriguing as the years go by, and anything Henderson more and more intriguing as the years go by. But yeah, 1980 Topps Henderson, a lot of people, I guess people that are not familiar with both 70s issues and including the 1980 Henderson, some of those issues are really surprisingly tough in PSA 10. They just really are, because whether it was quality control, centering, print, and here centering and print are usually part of the issue. Also, some of the paper used in the 70s and 1980, sometimes it was almost like a little more brittle or susceptible to wear. You certainly see that in years like 77 Topps, and sometimes you see it in 80. I mean, this is right in my wheelhouse growing up. I remember opening packs of these cards growing up. And sometimes they would come right out of the pack with sort of brittle, sort of like corners and edges and that sort of thing. So to get a PSA 10, and I think we have the population data available on the page. I mean, it's kind of remarkable when you think about how many of these have been graded and how few 10s have been graded after all of these years, 3 decades plus of PSA being in business. So you get that really extreme scarcity within the grade. And I think, again, what is really intriguing to me about this card, and of course Henderson, is that this is like, in a way, at least for now, it's sort of a bygone era of what he was able to do, what he was allowed to do on the field, where today it's just hard to imagine, a player reaching or eclipsing, some of the marks that he set.
Yeah, and he's a super popular player. This is such a popular card. When we have a 10 open for auction, which rarely happens, people go bananas over it for those same reasons. Everyone's had those same issues with it. It's a common card. So PSA's had 33,000 submissions, 33,000 plus, and this is just 26 to get a 10. So a lot of disappointed people. And we posted recently a huge collection of 1980 Topps that was consigned. Our consignment director, Jason Simons, posted the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of Ricky Hendersons that are in there, and everybody asking if we have gotten a 10 on social media. And the answer is no. We have not submitted them all, but we have not got a 10. It's just almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as tough as like the 79 Topps Ozzie Smith, but it's in that conversation of some of those more difficult rookie cards from the 70s and 1980. Again, it surprises a lot of people of just how tough some of those cards are in terms of being a condition rarity. And one last thing I'd like to say about Ricky, look, sports is entertainment, and there was no more entertaining guy than Ricky Henderson. I mean, he not only accumulated the numbers and did what he did on the field and won an MVP in 1990 and hit a lot of career milestones. He did it with flash, and people will always remember him for that. He was fun to watch, bottom line.
And Ricky said it best. He said, Ricky is the best.
That's right.
Hard to top that assessment. Well, let's keep moving. Great choices so far. What's next, Joe?
Next on my short list here is the 1961 Fleer signed Wilt Chamberlain rookie card.
Unbelievable offering.
It really is. I had a chance to see this in person, before it was certified by PSA, and it was just it's one of those things that in person it really is striking. And the thing there are two things I really love about it. I mean, again, the 1961 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain is something that people are familiar with. It's not a rare card. The card itself, kind of like what we were talking about before with Ricky Henderson. So it's not that the card is rare, but a signed rookie card and one that has this kind of eye appeal. The card for a 4 is a really attractive looking 4. It just has even wear kind of across the corners. There's some surface stuff there, but it's fair. It's well centered. It presents really well. But what I love the most about this card is when signed cards, especially signed rookies, have become super popular in recent years, going back maybe a decade or so. They've really picked up a lot of steam. And when you get into the vintage examples or vintage cards that are signed, there are vintage cards that were signed during the period, and there are vintage cards that were signed later. There are also vintage cards that were signed in Sharpie, ballpoint, or other, types of writing instruments. I love the fact that this is not signed in Sharpie, and I'll explain why. When someone is signing their name with a ballpoint pen or with like a kind of a thin, like a felt tip pen, something like that, you get more of the character of their signature. Sometimes you lose a little bit of that with a thicker kind of Sharpie, a marker. So there's something about that when you see this card in person, and it has that different look. It's not just kind of a thicker Sharpie marker signature. It's a more detailed ballpoint signature across the face. It just presents in such a special way. So I mean, the eye appeal of both the signature and the card combined, I mean, it's, as far as I know, this is the finest one on earth. And I think that, it is confirmed by the pop reports, but it's just a spectacular signed rookie card.
The cool thing about these vintage signed rookie cards is thinking about Wilt holding his own rookie card in his hand and signing. And I'm sure whoever gave it to him, had to reach up to give it to him.
And he probably held it on the tip of his finger.
Exactly. Yeah. Like a giant situation. But I love thinking about that. And I love looking for these. They usually take great care in where they put the autograph on this, as opposed to if they're signing a ball or, a photo or something like that. They know how important their rookie card is. So a tough card to find a spot to sign, but I think Wilt did the best job possible picking the spot with this one.
Yeah, and the detail that you can make out in his signature is just adds a little more, I think, to it. Versus sometimes where again they're signing it later in life, they're signing it with a different type of instrument. You lose a little bit of that character. I think you get all the character, with this signed rookie card. So just an awesome piece.
Yeah, and I would say despite all his accolades, Wilt is kind of underappreciated or underrepresented in the industry. You don't see a lot of huge sales for Wilt items. Gamers, of course, because just out of the rarity, but for other things, it's not always at the top of the yearly sales, Wilt Chamberlain offerings, but I think this one could see some fireworks because of the rarity.
Absolutely. I mean, and I agree with what you just said. He's almost a kind of a, not real, like the way that I've heard someone describe Babe Ruth like that. One of his, in an old sort of documentary that it was a contemporary of Ruth's, that said, like, I stopped telling stories about Ruth because no one would believe me. Chamberlain's kind of, along the same lines. I mean, he was so dominant. It's hard to, like, when you look at some of his numbers and some of the things he did, it's like you can't really get your mind wrapped around some of what he accomplished. And I think because of that, it's sort of, it's strange. It's like, as dominant as he was, as iconic as he is, he's when people talk about, we talk about the GOATs and the greatest of all time. It's like he's in the conversation, but he never ends up near, the very top. And really, as far as just pure dominance, it's hard to imagine someone more dominant than Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, I've got him towards the top for me. But yeah, his numbers have that Ruthian effect that they seem impossible. And when you look, the thing with Ruth is they were incredible based on everything that came before him, but he started this new era. But Wilt, he was unlike anything that had come, and he's unlike anything that's come after. Nobody's going to touch any of his records.
Yeah, very, very well put, Mike. No, that's very well said.
Oh, looks like we've got Tony. Glad you could make it, Tony.
Oh my God, this beautiful camera.
Did dinner go late? What happened here?
Technical difficulties. Sitting in my office trying to get this great camera to work. But Joe makes a great point on the vintage side. I know a lot of guys who are autograph guys, and if it's not signed in ballpoint ink, they won't buy it. So a lot of times those old school guys, they want to have it in vintage ballpoint ink, which this one has, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous Wilt card.
Agreed. All right, Joe, let's keep going. Now that we got Tony here, now that we got the group complete, you can get into the real stuff.
Well, here I got one more from at least session one here, which is kind of changing directions a bit. It's the Batman card, the #1 Batman card from 66 Topps. Yeah, this is, look, the thing I want to just point out here, and we've sold these in the past, is that there are some cards that, forget about the set, forget about anything else, but just the card by itself kind of just rises to a new level of sort of iconic status just because of the visuals. And this is one of them. I mean, you could make the argument that this is one of just the coolest looking cards ever made, period. Not just in non-sports, but when you just think about from an artistic standpoint, just that eye-catching standpoint, it is just an awesome card to look at. It's just so pleasing to the eye when you see it. And obviously, since this time, in the late 60s, Batman has been, through movies and TV shows and so forth, they're just going to keep rebooting this to future generations, the story of Batman. And so it continues on. And when I think about, what's the coolest Batman card on earth? What's one of the coolest non-sports cards on earth? If I was doing a Mount Rushmore of non-sports cards, it would be hard to leave this one off the list just because of the striking nature of the artwork. So it kind of speaks for itself, I guess, is my point. But it's just a really, really awesome piece.
Yeah, and non-sports has become it's always been popular, but now it's growing in interest. And the big draw there is the IP of it. And like you said, it's something that gets recycled to every generation. It creates new fans. The 1940 Superman card, that's the Babe Ruth to me, and this is the Mickey Mantle. As far as comic book cards go, this is the 52 Topps Mantle. Incredible image, and Batman is one of the most popular characters ever created. It doesn't matter if you're not into comic books. If you see this at a show, it catches your eye.
Exactly, and in your point about the Superman card, again, interestingly enough, it's that #1 Superman card that really garners extra attention. Same thing here. It's the first card in the set, and what a way to lead it off. Again, just aesthetically, I'm sure if you showed this card to our colleagues in the art department, they would say the same thing. It catches your eye immediately. And you don't, like you said, you don't have to be into comic books. You don't have to be into the movies or the TV shows or the show that, the vintage show either. It just is really great to look at. So just a great piece of nostalgia and again, non-sports history here.
Yeah, great choice. And they got the Batman logo in there as well, which has become very iconic. It's just like having the team logo on the corner of the cards there. Brilliant design. And we've seen a couple of these, but I expect a little more broadening and opening up of the non-sports genre from sports collectors, because now there's a lot more value there. And there's just such broad interest in it. We've seen some great prices for Three Stooges cards, which I don't know if that's getting recycled to new generations. My kids are not watching the Three Stooges, I'll say that. But it's just one of those iconic IPs that everybody knows something about it, even if you've never seen it. So very interested to see where the non-sports genre continues to climb to.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, great point. If you look at what some of the comics, how they perform in their markets of Batman, of the first appearance of Superman, I mean, you could buy these cards in super high grade at an absolute fraction of what you can sort of see the potential in that market as it develops and more people are introduced to it. But when you compare like the all-time record for a Batman comic, which I think is over 2 million. I think it is something like that.
2.3, I believe.
3.3. So, compared to what you could pick this up for, it's like, okay, yeah, there seems to be value here and potential as, again, people are introduced to the market. They learn more about the different issues and the nuance of each one. But yeah, it's a fun piece in the auction.
Anybody who's interested in that, I would encourage you to pick up any Spider-Man cards you see, because those are woefully undervalued, I'd say, right now. And to your point, you cannot get an Amazing Fantasy 15 for under high five figures in any grade now. So if you're interested in that, for normal people like us, the non-sports cards are a very good option, financially speaking.
Absolutely.
Tony, what do you got on comics? You haven't piped in yet.
Oh, I think I had the A-Team comic growing up. That was about my experience in comics.
I love it.
Didn't do comics a lot. I did not get into them. So it was baseball cards.
Did you say that? Did you say A-Team?
The A-Team. There was an A-Team.
Really?
Comic. Yes, and I had that. That was
it autographed by Mr. T or no? No,
I wasn't that lucky. No. I'll have to try to work to get that one done. But I never got into comics. It was baseball cards.
I'd love to do a video of Barry Sandoval of evaluating your A-Team comic, Tony.
I'm going to have to find that A-Team.
Dig that up. We'll make that happen.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, Joe. Excellent stuff as always. Can we bring you back a little bit later to talk about some session 2 material?
Would love to. No, really enjoy it.
Thank you very much. So we'll bring Joe back a little bit later to talk memorabilia. As we said earlier, Session 1 closing tonight. Extended bidding begins at 10 p.m. Central Time, so you got about 90 minutes for the cards. Session 2 will begin, has extended bidding tomorrow night. That's the memorabilia. Joe, always a pleasure. Thank you, and we'll see you in a little bit.
See you guys. Take care.
All right, Tony. Glad you made it in. Glad you got your Packers Hall of Fame jersey.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We have to have Joe back for some baseball bats, so
don't worry, we got that coming up.
All right, I want to make sure, because I love hearing him talk baseball bats.
That's what we like to call a teaser, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, cards is tonight, and we have some incredible offerings. Right now, I just wanted to highlight we have some amazing, iconic, modern rookies that are closing tonight. So just very quickly, of course, we have to mention the 2000 playoff contenders Tom Brady championship ticket. When this rolled off the presses, nobody thought it was going to be valuable at all. For the 199th pick, Tom Brady, only 100 were made, and I would wager a few were discarded because people thought, they got Bledsoe. This guy's never going to see the field. But it has become the modern grail for football collectors. And this one has a 10 autograph from the GOAT. Tony, did you ever crack one of these open?
I got back into cards in about 1998, 1999 when I was in college. I did not have this card, and I wonder how many times, somebody who got one of these in a pack, not saying they just threw it away, but they would have probably said, oh, who's this guy? He's never going to play. And you also wonder if you've ever saw them at shows. They could have been in a common bin. Who knows? But
very true.
Yeah.
He wasn't even, a huge name at Michigan either. He wasn't in the Heisman race. They weren't in the national championship race. So very interesting how big that card has become. This next one didn't surprise anyone. A quarterback that almost essentially rocketed to stardom once he took the field. This is the 2017 Panini Contenders Patrick Mahomes. This is the Super Bowl ticket autograph, and it's a 1/1 BGS 9 with a 9 autograph from Mahomes, and one of the most valuable modern cards that exists. A beautiful example, and it's going to find a new home tonight. Tony, do you think Mahomes has got a future in the league?
Pitching
your softball here to get warmed up.
He was behind Alex Smith his first year, and then after that he just kind of took off, and now 2 Super Bowls. He's the quarterback in the league. There's no more Tom Brady either, so I mean he's the guy, and if he continues to do what he has done, the sky's the limit on this one.
And every NFL draft, they say every team now is looking for their Pat Mahomes. So,
yes. And he can, we always talk about this guys that change the game. He has kind of done that with his no-look passes, and he's just so exciting, and he's going to continue to keep on winning, and those cards will continue to keep on going up, I think.
Who you got in the game on Monday? Chiefs, Eagles, Tony. Let the people know.
Chiefs.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
All right.
24-17.
Oh, nice. He's giving us
the score even. Yeah.
There you go, gamblers. Enjoy. This next one sent some ripples through the office when it came in. This is the Bryce Harper card. It came in during the Major League Baseball playoffs. This is the 2011 Bowman Chrome Bryce Harper, the prospect autograph superfractor 1/1 with a 10 autograph. Gorgeous example. Tony, what are your thoughts on Harper?
I remember chasing him when I was living in Vegas, trying to get his autograph on his first Sports Illustrated, and I was not successful, by the way. He's been a big deal since he was 15, 16 years old. And I mean, he's got the Phillies right in there, right by the World Series. And, he's still in
World
his prime.
Series adjacent, we'll say.
On the edge, on the fringe. But no, I mean, he's still in his prime right now, and he could still win a couple more World Series.
Yeah, and announced today that he's going to be moving to first base, so a little less wear and tear on him, and perhaps some bigger numbers at the plate, and maybe go a little further in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and lastly on my little run here, the 03 Upper Deck Exquisite Collection LeBron James. This is the Exquisite RPA Level 1, 74 out of 99, BGS Mint 9 with a 10 autograph from LeBron. LeBron in his 21st season, Tony. There's been a handful of players that have played 21 seasons. No player has averaged over 8 points in their 21st season or over 3 assists or 3 rebounds. And LeBron 21, 8, and 6 right now in his 21st season. How about that?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he's had long extended runs every single year of his career. And so he hasn't just played during a regular season. He's had long runs in the postseason too. And for him to be as explosive as he still is remarkable. And we can, we do hope that his son does come back as well and joins him in the NBA.
I think he's going to be all right, and I think he's going to play. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, that'd be great to see. I mean, that's just unheard of in the NBA, at least. I mean, where guys don't last terribly long, to be that good and that dominant for so long is incredible.
Indeed. All right, Tony, I've prattled on long enough. We talked about the signed 61 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain, so let's get into some gamers, and you've got one of my favorites on the list right here.
Yeah, just a gorgeous, probably, you could put this up as one of the top 5 jerseys in the hobby as far as basketball. It's Lou Alcindor, game-worn rookie jersey, but also photo match to the NBA Finals when the Bucks won their first title. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous cheesecloth design with Milwaukee on the front, 33 on the back, and the name on back as well. Just an absolute, no name on back. My bad on that. But gorgeous cut on the numbers and the team name. The piping's beautiful. I mean, it's in great condition. If you're looking for that cornerstone piece, this is it right. This is it right here. I mean, we sold one for 98,000, I think about 5 years ago. This is its mate, I guess you could say, and it's already at 240,000, and there is still going to go up. I believe that this is just an incredible jersey, and not just for a Bucks fan. I mean, for any NBA fan. I mean, he was so good for so long. Multiple MVPs, of course. I think he won 6 titles. And he did it on defense and offense, and set the standard for 35 years as far as scoring goes. So, an incredible jersey. This is the first time that it's ever been offered as well. So I think that also adds to it.
Yeah, and it's got the provenance and likely photo matches that tie it to the playoffs in his rookie season. And when you think about what a dominant playoff player he was and spent almost every season in the playoffs, I love that it's tied to the first playoffs he was in, and then his second year as well, photo match to the NBA Finals, which he was going up against Wes Unseld, who's one of the most dominant.
One of the toughest guys in NBA history, too. And the meanest looking guy.
He was like a Shaq of the time. You know, he was big, thick, intimidating. And a lot of people wondered if the spindly second-year player could handle Unseld. And Alcindor just dominated him. It was a 4-game sweep. Alcindor was the Finals MVP, his first Finals MVP. So incredible history tied to this Milwaukee garment that I know rings some extra bells for you as a Bucks fan, Tony.
As a Bucks fan, this is as good as it gets. I mean, it's easily the top jersey in franchise history. And like I said, there's some Chamberlain jerseys out there that can rival this, but that's about it. I mean, even George Mikan, I mean, there's just not this kind of quality. Phenomenal condition as well. There's no holes in it or anything like that. It's a beautiful looking shirt. That forest green is just gorgeous, and that red piping really helps it jump out quite a bit. But just a phenomenal jersey from the captain.
Yeah, and we've got another vintage Bucks jersey in the auction as well, Tony. What do you think about
this guy doesn't get the love that he probably should, and he's one of the he's obviously it was him and Alcindor that helped them get the first title, but it's a really nice Oscar Robertson game-worn jersey with a probable photo match. Again, it's a simple look, but it's beautiful with the white background and red number, and that one's got the name on back, so it kind of gives a more aesthetics, I guess you could say. But great use, great wear, and there's it's in phenomenal condition. So you could buy them both and have the best Bucks collection known.
There it is. And when we're talking about Kareem and Big O with the Bucks, my favorite part is that they drafted Dr. J as well. And if he hadn't gone to the ABA, you would have had those three together. Do you ever think about that, Tony?
What I think about is the coin flip. That I mean, one coin flip changed the whole history of that league. With Phoenix, if Phoenix would have won it, the Bucks, who knows, they wouldn't have gotten Oscar Robertson or anything like that, I'm sure. So one coin flip changed everything for the Bucks.
And the Suns got to call the coin flip. Colangelo did a fan poll, and the fans picked it. Do you think he just did that so he wouldn't be to blame?
Yeah, I think that's a wise choice of that what he did, because if he lost, hey, you guys told me to. So he kind of had an out a little bit, which was a kind of a smart idea. And if he wins, well, hey, thanks guys for everything that you did. So kind of saved himself a little bit.
Good.
But he had a nice career though, Colangelo.
He did. All right, let's go on to another jersey, Tommy. We already talked about the 62 box with Joe. So let's talk about this 1958 Sandy Koufax game worn and signed Los Angeles Dodgers jersey. Tony, how beautiful is this?
Well, I love the Dodger jerseys, especially with the fire engine red number, the beautiful underscored team name, and then on the back, of course, you got the 32 on back. The design, the look is just magnificent. Also, you've got the Rawlings tag and the tail, and Koufax with 58 in there too, chain stitched. So, and of course, the main selling point of this jersey is photo matched, which is difficult to have done from that time period. Yes, they did wear 2 home and 2 road, but to photo match this, I don't know if I've seen another Koufax that has photo matched. And I mean, this is again one of the most significant jerseys in baseball history. Not only because it just looks so beautiful, but it's from Koufax when he was starting to make a name for himself, and just a phenomenal looking jersey. And again, when you can put photo matched into one of these legendary flannels, it just takes it to a whole different level. And it's got everything that you could ever want.
And 1958, the Dodgers' first year in Los Angeles. That's a move that changed baseball history. I was recently in Los Angeles, and that is a baseball town. There's Dodgers stuff everywhere. It's amazing to think about the effect, them moving out there that year, and this is what Koufax wore that first season in the City of Angels.
I mean, he was one of those guys that, you know, his run wasn't the longest, but he was so dominant. You almost wish you could have seen him play in person to see that curveball just drop like it did in the zone. He was so dominant, and just, you know, he was one of those guys that just moves the radar. But again, it's also such a gorgeous looking jersey too. That helps sell it too. It's just, you know, it's one of the best Koufaxes I've ever seen.
Yes, as we said earlier, we have the highlights from our auction on display in our gallery in our world headquarters in Dallas, along with our incredible silver department, our fine art department. And I was talking to one of our fine art clients about this jersey, and they said that is art right there. So I would have to agree, although I'm no art expert.
Me either.
Moving on, this is one of my favorite items in the auction. So special and unique. This is an 1893. Tony, we're going back here. 1893 Cy Young cabinet card, and it's signed by Cy Young, not once, but twice, Tony. 2 signatures. You've got the full name right there across the chest, and then he added another Cy for good measure at the bottom in the middle there. And a great thing about this is when he played for the Cleveland Spiders. Tony, we've had teams changing names recently. How come nobody's taking Spiders?
I don't know, but they should.
In fact, Cleveland could be the Spiders again.
Instead of the Guardians.
Think about the tie-ins with Spider-Man and the Marvel Universe right there. There's money to be made, Cleveland.
There's a lot of marketing that is being lost. But most of this other stuff that you see from Cy Young is late in his life. You know, a lot of times you'll see cut autographs. You don't see a lot of this kind of autograph from the earlier portion of his career and his life. Most of the stuff was signed through the mail late in life, and it's real shaky. But this is just absolutely stunning, and it's right across the center too, which is just amazing.
Of mail, Tony, I haven't even gotten to the best part of this. This derives from Cy Young's personal collection. He signed it and sent it to someone. The envelope is included, and guess what's on the envelope as well, Tony?
Did you get a second signature?
Another autograph from Cy Young on the return right there. There we go. You can see it right there. From his personal collection. That is just so cool. You're going to get that. Whoever wins that gets both. Special piece there. Speaking of special pieces, Tony, we don't get to say this often. Not many people do, but this next item is the only known Babe Ruth example. And that's going to ring bells for collectors. This is the 1921 Shotwell Babe Ruth. This is the only graded example of this card, a one-of-one Babe Ruth. Tony, do you have any one-of-one Babe Ruth items in your collection?
I have none. I've never owned an autograph, and they're probably too expensive now for me to start collecting Ruth autographs. But nope, never had one. Don't have anything really. Ruth doesn't fit in my collection quite as much.
Yeah, understandable. So the image is probably familiar to collectors. It's been used on the W571 strip cards, the 121 American Caramel. So it's the back that sets it apart with that Shotwell Manufacturing Company logo. They're from Chicago. And their claim to fame is Checkers Popcorn Confection. Do you know what that is, Tony?
Candy.
Yeah, I'll accept that as an answer. But this I saw in the auction, very impressive across all three major grading services. This is the only example in any population. So excited to see what that one ends up going for. And then on the modern side, I love this next one. This is the 2003 Upper Deck Honor Roll Michael Jordan and LeBron James class dual signature. Kind of a passing of the torch card. Am I right, Tony?
It is. And have those two guys, both Upper Deck guys, those are the two that you would want to have. And I always say this, if it wasn't for Upper Deck, the Michael Jordan autograph would be just an absolute train wreck, because I mean they helped kind of protect his market on his autograph at least.
Definitely.
And then LeBron, again, not an easy guy to get to sign anything, and Upper Deck kind of gave his fans a chance to get a real autograph. So they helped change the whole hobby and our industry, and have them both on the same card. Really, really nice.
Great point. It's a PSA Gem Mint 10 autographs from both LeBron and Jordan, and it's numbered 1 of 15. Very cool modern entry there. Tony, I've been prattling on. What do you want to talk about here?
I don't know. You're doing a pretty good job, I got to tell you. One of the things that caught my eye, the 1984 Star Company complete set in the original bags, which these were released in small quantities, and to have the complete set in the bags is pretty hard to find. And I know there's been rumors that there were only 5,000 sets made of these, and kind of regional distribution. So to have the Jordan, multiple Jordans, you got them on the Team USA, and then of course you got the one that everybody wants, he's the center feature on the Bulls bag, but then you've got Magic, Bird, Akeem, his rookie. A lot of guys, it's their first card. So pretty hard to find this complete set in the original bags. And there's some pretty good potential on this one, I think, especially now with PSA grading these cards. There could be a lot of potential with this lot.
The best part of you choosing that, Tony, is getting to hear how you say bags.
I know. I was kind of going to try to. I will say I did have a Paul Pressey star card. Don't ask me why I bought a Paul Pressey star card, but it's a yellow background, and I want to say 84, 85, but I wasn't smart enough to buy the Jordan. No, but I do have Paul Pressey, so
that'll work,
I guess.
Speaking of Jordan, we don't see these come through very often, but it's one of my favorites, the 85 Star Company Slam Dunk Contest Supers here. The oversized card, it's a 5x7 of Jordan. And how about that image of the GOAT throwing it down there, Tony?
Wearing those vintage Air Jordans too. I mean, Slam Dunk Contest, I believe.
You see the chain around his neck.
Oh, it's just such a classic look. And, these were hard to store. It's not like a baseball card. You'd almost needed a 8x10 holder probably for something like this. So, and with those red borders, they would have chipped easily. So to find this in high grade isn't really that easy. And it's a bigger card too. So, I mean, there's a lot of bells and whistles on this one. But it's a great looking photo.
Yeah, and 9.5s across the board on the subgrades, except for the centerings, just at a 9, but averages out to the Gem Mint 9.5 there with none higher. But a great display piece as far as a card. As you said, it's oversized, the 5x7, and classic image of Jordan throwing it down.
It's a great early look into Jordan, especially in the Slam Dunk Contest. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Tony, have we talked Kobe yet tonight?
We're going to, I hope.
Let's do it right now.
So this one came across, we ended up getting this really late in the consignment process, and I didn't think we'd be able to even get it in, but we did. And, the Kobe Bryant set you'll see most of the time, the number 24 jersey. There's a lot more photo matched of that from that quote unquote era of his career toward the back half of his Lakers career. This one is one of the earlier photo matched Kobe game worn jerseys. This is from 2000, match to December 22nd. We also believe that he would have worn it for multiple games, but the only definitive match we got was to the one game, and really hard to find early Kobe stuff. And so often they don't photo match. There's a lot of jerseys from this time period, but they never seem to match. This one here, the classic number 8, of course, his numbers retired 8 and 24, but really, really nice earlier Kobe number 8 game worn jersey. And we are excited that it's an auction tomorrow night. I think it's going to go off and do really, really well. Right now at 100,000.
He beat the Mavericks that night, the game that it's photo matched to. Kobe tortured the Mavericks almost every occasion, and this is another great example. 35 points, 4 and 4. So he had a huge game against Dirk and the Mavs here.
Yeah, and I just love the photo that it's matched to. It's just classic early Kobe, kind of the longer hair, and he's just so youthful and getting ready to lead the Lakers to the promised land. So really, really nice. Tough to find, though. Tough to find those early photo match jerseys. And most of them are tucked away in collections. But this one was recently found, and I think it's going to really perform well tomorrow night.
Agreed. And up next, some LeBron James rookie kicks. These LeBron gamers are photo matched as well to a game against Kevin Garnett and the Timberwolves. Great example of the Nike Air Zoom generation, the first iteration there for LeBron's. And our consignor tells us that a celebrity who will remain unidentified was gifted these shoes by the Rookie of the Year after the game, and our consignor got them directly from that celebrity. So a cool story there. And of course, LeBron rookie game worn anything has incredible value. So a big piece here that's going to find a new home tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, whenever we can say the word photo matched on something, especially from him and early from his career. I mean, we did sell I think his second or third game shoes for over 200,000.
That's great.
These are rookie shoes. These are going to perform really, really well. It's a great style too. It's a beautiful style, and it's early from his career. Rookie year. Who knows how much longer he'll be playing? He's probably got another year left, maybe 2. So
maybe 5. Who knows?
We'll see on that.
This next one, I saw it on display in our gallery, really caught my eye. I love these cards that are tying together athletes from different sports, and 2 GOATs here. This is the 2002 UD Superstars, Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods, the legendary leaders. And you've got the dual jersey and autographs here. It's numbered 11 out of 25. And great piece here with, as you remember, in 2002 was pretty much the height of Tiger Mania, and Jordan always super popular. So great idea, Upper Deck, with this issue right here.
Yeah, I mean, they did the LeBron James and Michael Jordan and Tiger. I mean, both of these guys are, legendary figures, of course. And they were both Upper Deck guys who had very nice autographs too. So yeah, it's cool to have them tied in together. Jordan at the end of his career, of course, and then Tiger when he was absolutely dominating the sport like we've never seen before. And to have those swatches in there, great looking autographs. It's a really, really cool card of 2 of course, sports icons.
All right, Tony, I'm glad you chose this next one.
This is just too beautiful. It's a little hideous too. I'm not gonna lie, but when you talk Miami, they have Miami Vice. These colors just jump out at you, and it screams Miami. And if you're a Dwayne Wade fan or a Miami Heat fan, this one is perfect for you. I guess you could call it hot pink as the color. But again,
it makes me want to have a pina colada. I'll say that.
I know. Yeah. I mean, basketball teams used to be so traditional, and then now they've kind of worn alternates and City Connect jerseys and everything else. And this is one of the earlier ones, I would say, that just changed the game. I mean, this is gaudy. This is loud. This is Miami. And it's Dwayne Wade that you could say he's probably
that should be their slogan, Tony. You should talk to their PR group.
I should have copyrighted that before I said it, so they can have that one. It's on me.
We've got some very interesting Heat gamers in this auction. There's a
Photo
cool
match Heat
Jimmy
gamers
Butler
too.
one as well.
Yeah. I mean, those are just so unique, and I think everybody tries to outdo everybody else now with these jerseys and the styles and the colors and the combinations. That Miami Heat one, that first one, that is about as unique as you could possibly get.
Well put. All right, and of course you're going to close out this session here with another Bucks jersey. Great choice.
Yeah, I mean, we got some pretty cool Bucks jerseys in here, and this is one of the tougher ones to find. There just haven't been too many Sidney Moncrief game-worn jerseys, and he had to wait a little bit before he got in the Hall of Fame. But to true collectors, what really two things stand out: the side striping with the array of green, from dark green to light green to white, and that beautiful name on back, that arch name on back with the thin nameplate. They did go to just a screened-on nameplate eventually, but this is what guys who love these 80s jerseys really look for, that nice arched name on back with that beautiful name on there. These, again, the Bucks did not let a lot of their stuff out. So this one, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous jersey from a time where they were they were so good, but they just couldn't beat the Celtics or they couldn't beat the 76ers. So they kind of were in that second tier, but it's a nice looking jersey and a tough style to find.
Good choice there. Underrated player, Moncrief.
Very good defensive player.
Good item. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and we're going to have Mr. Joe Orlando join us again to talk about some memorabilia. But right now, we love to highlight our 55 other departments at Heritage. Tony, can you list off those other?
My God, when I started here, we had 30, and then it went to 40. Now it's 55.
That's correct.
We're doing something right.
Our entertainment department has really been making news and is very hot right now. And they have some great musical posters, auctions. And let's take a look at one of the cool items they have right now.
Hi there, this is Pete Howard, Director of Concert Posters for Heritage Auctions. And what an unusual and rare and fun concert poster this is. Oh my goodness, the Acid Test Graduation. What a cultural event poster this is from Halloween of 1966. Take a look at this beauty. It's almost like a Marvel Comics character on there or something instead of typical elements for a psychedelic poster. But there they are, the Grateful Dead, and even Ken Kesey's name on there is so special. And the Merry Pranksters, some of them named, and there's guest stars and everything. And just this day-glow red color is just so, it just so pops. It's so beautiful. And this one has been graded to an 8.5 grade. It's very difficult to find in any condition. It's quite the rarity. Now, the facts behind this event are just fascinating. It was planned for the huge Winterland. And, it was the graduation, have you passed the acid test? And LSD had been made illegal in California. But Bill Graham caught wind of this show, and he heard that the pranksters were going to dose every person going to the show with LSD. Hello? Well, Graham, sticking up for, the hoi polloi or whatever, protested enough that it was shut down. And this acid test grad was moved to an out-of-the-way warehouse in San Francisco, and the Dead had to cancel. But they played somewhere else that night. But the acid test did go on. Ken Kesey was there. All the pranksters were there. Diplomas were handed out. So in a way, the LSD movement in the Bay Area sort of ended with a whimper instead of a bang. Winterland would have been the bang. But the poster is so special because it was the planned Big Bang, if you would, and the end of the acid movement, just as it became illegal, as I said, in the state of California. So again, everybody except the Grateful Dead were present at this event, and it's well documented in books like the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. You can read all about it, and it's really fun to do so. This poster is just so rare and coveted, though. It often trades hands for over $20,000. It's really a gem. So to have one Lightly restored here, as you can see, and graded 8.5 and encapsulated, is just a real treat, and certainly the very first time Heritage Auctions has ever had one for sale. So to read more about it and check up on the description and the pictures and everything, by the way, this auction's off the weekend of November 18 through 20, which includes a Monday. This poster will be on the Saturday, November 18. And just go to ha.com/7309.
Ty Cobb himself called Shoeless Joe Jackson the greatest natural hitter to ever play the game. And Babe Ruth echoed that sentiment, calling him, quote, the guy that made me a hitter. But of course, the infamous 1919 Black Sox scandal makes Joe Jackson's game-used material very rare and very hard to come by. But after he was expelled from the game of baseball, that did not end his baseball career. With fame and money gone, Jackson would continue appearing on the barnstorming circuit for 20 years until the age of 50. And this game-used bat comes from that era of his career. Julio Rodriguez's career is just beginning, but already his resume is full. In just 2 seasons, he's already garnered Rookie of the Year award and 2 All-Star appearances. This bat dates from his rookie season, and it's the first Rodriguez rookie bat we've had the privilege to offer. It shows tremendous use with ball marks on all areas of the barrel. Blue ink transfers and an impression of a batting donut are on the barrel. Rodriguez has signed the barrel in as well. Plus, the experts at PSA DNA tell us that Rodriguez carried this bat over to his sophomore campaign, and it's been photo matched at 2 games against the visiting Colorado Rockies on April 14th and 15th of 2023. Rodriguez doubled and drove in a run in the first game and tripled with 4 RBIs in the second. Incredible piece of World Series history right here. This is a game-used ball from the 1913 World Series, Game 5, the title-clinching game. Eddie Plank outdueled future Hall of Famer Christy Mathewson to win the game, and he signed this ball. It's one of the few balls known signed by Eddie Plank, and you can see it's a beautifully bold 8 out of 10 signature. Plank also wrote Christy Mathewson's name on it, the date of the game, and that they won. Very likely the last out from the 1913 World Series, and it has the incredibly rare Eddie Plank signature as well. A huge piece of World Series history that's going to find a new home in a few weeks. Nice. Plenty of highlights going on in the auction right now. Glad I can keep you awake, Tony, over there. Or were you studying?
I was studying.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
I was studying.
That's what I thought.
There's going to be a test from Joe tonight, so we're going to.
Because we got a lot of bosses, but we're bringing one of your bosses on right now. So, Joe, welcome
the professor.
back.
The professor, you mean?
Hobby luminary, and the professor. That's a good one to add to the list right there. Joe, thank you for jumping back on with us.
Yeah, for the record, I am the boss of no one, even my children. So I'm the boss of no one.
Well, I think Tony's wife would like any help she can get from you in corralling him. So if you want to jump in anywhere, just go right ahead. But
I generally don't try to herd butterflies. I can't do
right.
that.
Very accurate description. Very accurate description. So we talked some cards with you at the in the last hour, but tomorrow we've got session 2, the memorabilia closing. So we want to hear your thoughts on your favorite items on the memorabilia side in the auction.
Yeah, I mean, as always, there's so much to choose from, but I picked a handful that I thought would be interesting to talk about, starting with a signed Babe Ruth photo dated to 1947.
Gorgeous example.
Yeah, this one, what I like about this particular photo is, look, Babe Ruth signed photos are not rare. Let's start with that and get that out in the open. So it's really a matter of, if you're a collector, it's not a matter of finding one, it's finding the right one. It's finding one that checks all the boxes. And I believe this one does. So first of all, let's start with the image. The image is a familiar one. I mean, you see these on more like postcard sized photos, the smaller photos. This one's full size. This is a full 8x10, which makes it a lot more appealing from a display standpoint. So it's not the typical signed photos that we're distributed late in his life when people would ask for signature requests. It's the full-sized version of that same image. So that's number one. Number two is, like you said, in terms of being a beautiful example. It's gorgeous in terms of condition. It was preserved really, really well. It received a PSA Mint 9 for the signature, and the entire inscription is really bold and legible. And by the way, virtually perfectly placed. I mean, like if you were going to pick a spot, and of course Ruth was as good as anyone at this, he knew exactly where to sign it. He knew exactly where the contrast was going to be. It's so perfectly placed from an eye appeal standpoint, in addition to its wonderful condition. But to me, the real story here is the provenance. It's how did it get here today? So I had a chance to work with this consignor. And so his grandmother was a nurse who worked at the hospital. And when Ruth was battling cancer late in his life, and especially in 1947, at one of his hospital stays where he was receiving treatment, his grandmother asked for an autograph and to have Ruth sign it to one of her sons named Paul de Covesse. Now, Paul de Covesse was the consignor's uncle, and he shared the same name. So when the consignor turned 13 years old, his uncle, who shared the same name, he was also Paul de Covesse, he gave it to him to say, look, you know, I've had this for a while, and I think you would enjoy having it since we share the same name. So this has remained in the family all along. It was in the original frame when it was delivered to Heritage. Obviously wonderfully preserved, but just to have that connection going back from the consignor to his uncle to the grandmother who originally acquired the autograph, I think it makes it pretty special. And it also says something about Ruth. I mean, Ruth, as anyone knows, battling cancer is no fun. And even at the end of his life, when he was in rough shape, he still accommodated fans. Because he was that gregarious guy to the end. He was a people person, and you know, he was always willing to accommodate people. So I love the sort of the combination of things that this particular photo offers. Again, Babe Ruth signed photos are not rare, but this one I think is a little extra special for someone looking for a nice example for their collection.
I love that addition of it's been in one family the whole time, and then now it's looking for a new owner. I think to a lot of people in the industry, that can add a lot.
That's right. And it's funny. I mean, years ago, provenance wasn't really valued that much in the autograph world because the idea was, look, it's either going to pass authentication or not. But now people are starting to value provenance a little bit more. It's that little extra thing that you could add to a piece if you have that story. And again, we talk about it all the time on the show. I mean, what are collectibles? Collectibles are stories. There are stories behind every collectible, no matter what it is. And I think having that story, as a matter of fact, I should have mentioned this earlier. What's really remarkable, if you look at the date that this photo, the way it's inscribed and the exact date, you can find articles online that put his hospital stay within like a day or two of this exact date on the photo. There are articles about how Ruth was undergoing experimental treatments that had never, believe this or not, had never been tested on humans before. And they decided to test it on Ruth because he was, again, in really rough shape and they were trying everything they could and he was willing to do it. But you could, for anyone who's interested, all you have to do is go to your search engine and type up a combination of terms that would, Babe Ruth, cancer battle, that sort of thing. And you'll pull up articles that talk about this experimental treatment that he was going through. And again, there are articles that actually talk about his June 1947 stay. And there are particular dates in the articles that put it right there. I mean, right within days of this signature. So it really, there's a real rich story behind this. And again, combined with the eye appeal, the condition, I think it's a Ruth photo that deserves a little extra look from the collecting community.
I love all that backstory, and as you said, you can see the autograph and the inscription from across the room. Yeah. Beautifully done and beautifully preserved. You could see that it was really loved and treasured.
That's right. And I mean, this is it. I mean, we deal with this all the time at Heritage. This was not a collector. This is just a family member who had this keepsake. It was a family heirloom in his possession all along, but he didn't collect anything. This was personal to him. So, I mean, again, it's part of the story. And sometimes when we're dealing with consigners, they're longtime collectors. Other times, it's just a part of their family history. And this is a great example of that.
Outstanding. Good piece there. What's coming up next for you, Joe?
Yeah, let's jump into some game used bats, starting with the Willie Mays bat that we have.
This is what Tony has been waiting for all night to hear you talk game used bats.
The education we're gonna get. I love this.
Well, this is a fun one. This really is a fun one. So, and we'll get to why. So, obviously, we've sold Willie Mays bats in the past, and they've really escalated in recent years. And again, we talk about bats, you know, when you're talking about elite examples, what are you looking for? You're looking for the player characteristics that help put the bat in the player's hands. These are the fingerprints, the modifications of the players that they apply to the bats after they receive them. So what jumps out first, you see the pine tar pattern, which is absolutely perfect for Mays during this period of his career. Starting around the mid-1960s, he started to apply a pretty heavy layer of pine tar that covered a lot of surface area on the bat. And what he would do is he would apply it up kind of in the mid area, upper handle, mid area of the bat, grab it from there. And that's why you'll see like remnants of it on the lower handle, because that's the pine tar being transferred from the center of the bat from his hands down, you know, below on the handle. That's number one. The bat, the 24 on the knob is perfect. It's a very familiar style of 24 that you'll see on Mays bats from the period, and it's completely legible. It's been preserved really nicely. Maybe third, the bat itself. Let me finish with a couple extra points. So in the center of the bat, when you're looking at the full length shot of the bat, you'll notice this ring, this dark ring that is sitting there, right there. Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. So this is a really interesting story. So some players, and Mike Schmidt was one that was known for this, they had a signature contract with one brand, but they didn't have a contract with another. In the case of Schmidt, he had a signature contract with Adirondack, not with Louisville Slugger. Same with Willie Mays. So, as you notice, this is an H&B, which would eventually become Louisville Slugger, years later. But this is an H&B bat. So what some of the players would do to avoid kind of sort of controversy, they would put a ring that resembled the ring that you would see on the other brand, the Adirondack bats. So when they would step to the plate, if they were on TV, it would look like they're using an Adirondack bat. They're sort of contracted, to do so. So there are this is a great Mays example, and the ring is completely intact. Schmidt is probably the most well-known player who did that. You'll see many examples of Schmidt bats that are of the sort of H&B / Louisville Slugger variety with the sort of fake ring that was applied to it to make it look like an Adirondack. I think that adds tremendous sort of piece to the story here is to have that ring on the bat for Mays. Another thing that you'll see on the bat, if you get really close to the barrel, both on the front and on the back, on kind of the upper portion of the bat, you'll see rack and dugout marks all over it. I mean, it's some of the most prominent rack marks that you'll ever see on a bat. And there are some that are on the facing of the bat. There are some on the back barrel. But it really adds to the character, the tar, the 24 on the knob, the ring. There's another great shot of the dugout streaks, but the ring that is on that kind of midpoint of the bat, it has really excellent use. It does have a vintage signature, while not perfect, is there. It's legible on the back in red. I mean, it's just a great example of a bat from this period, for Mays. And so again, really, sort of veteran bat collectors, they just love that character. And there are just so many aspects to this bat that give it character. So it's just when you see it in person, I guess the last thing I'll point out is that it had the sort of color of the wood. Sometimes when you get into bats from the 60s and the 70s, even the 50s, they have a very bland look, kind of a washed out look, if you will. This doesn't have that at all. It's a very rich looking bat. When you see it in person, it has a nice kind of tone to it from top to bottom. It's just from a display standpoint, it is a really terrific Mays gamer.
Like you said with the photo, great backstory there with the ring. That's incredible. I love thinking about him maybe with his agent talking about, what can we do here to settle
avoid
this
trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Just like they don't want. Yeah, I don't want any headaches. What do? I'll just put a ring here. It looks like on TV because of course back in those days there isn't HD super high resolution. So
right.
Hey, if there's a ring on there, it probably looked on TV like he was using an Adirondack. So really cool part of the story. And that's, by the way, I mean, for those who may not be familiar, that's why you see on Mays bats, the H&B Mays bats, you'll see either just his last name in block letters, which is the most common type, or there are some rare examples. Some of them are around the 69, 70 era. Some of them are from the 50s that actually have Willie Mays in block letters, but never a signature model. The signature model was reserved for the Adirondack. So that, in case people are wondering, why does one have, block letters, the other one, doesn't? It's because he had that signature contract with the opposing brand.
That's great stuff, as always. And you were right about the bat rack streaks. They are so prominent on this. It makes me think he must have had a tough strikeout or something and just slammed the bat back in afterwards.
Or to put a positive spin on it, maybe it was just a freshly painted dugout. And he's just having it. And that, by the way, that is usually a lot of times what would happen is that if a dugout was sort of more recently painted over, then when the guys would pull their bats and pop them back in, they're more likely to get some streaks. I don't mean it was painted like an hour ago, but at least recently painted, you'll get more likely to get streaks like that.
I love the aspect you bring to it with the bats. Tony's right. I don't say that often, but Tony.
Record that. No, he's so right. I mean, that's got everything you could want in a Mays bat, and that great pine tar application is just really sets it off too.
Yeah, the hue of it. That one's getting a lot of attention in the gallery from Heritage employees, and it's definitely very eye grabbing. Just the entire aesthetic package. Yeah,
I mean, again, what is a real key reason why we collect any of this stuff? It's the way it looks. It's the way it's sort of, you have that visceral reaction to the aesthetics of a piece, no matter what kind of collectible it is. And when you see this, I walked into the gallery as well the other day and saw this in one of the display cases, and it really is exceptional in person.
Agreed. All right, what's up next, Joe?
Next is a more modern era bat, but we're going to go with the 2003 Barry Bonds gamer that we have in the auction.
I'm glad you picked this one. We put a lot of work into this one before the auction.
Well, look, Barry Bonds, as I said when we sent out our curator picks, for the for this auction, love him or hate him, during this streak of 2001 to 2004, I mean, 4 consecutive MVPs and video game like numbers. I mean, there were seasons he's walking 150, 200, 230 times a season walks. I mean, his slugging, his combined with the the on base plus the slugging, his OPS was ridiculous. He was just in a different dimension versus everybody else. You add to the fact, and there's so many things to talk about here with this bat. The Sam bats, these kind of like two-tone Sam bats from this period, it's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the best looking bats ever made, like just in terms of the aesthetics of the bat, the design of the bat. And then you couple that with his custom tape job, which is very recognizable. It sticks out. It is autographed. It is inscribed. And let me tell you, I grabbed this bat yesterday and I was kind of looking at it really closely with kind of like special lighting. The barrel is absolutely annihilated with stitch marks. I mean, this was definitely a favorite of his during the season. And how do we know that? On top of everything else, Well, it's been photo matched to one of the home runs. It's attributed to 4 home runs. He inscribed it, saying that he hit 4 home runs with the bat. Now, in many cases with bats, if you can't photo match it, you kind of just have to take the word of the player if they're saying that it's been used for a particular milestone, a home run, game-winning hit, whatever it is. In this case, what I love about the inscription coupled with the photo match is the photo match puts the bat at the scene, right in the middle of this home run streak. And there's also a Resolution who also, they provided a definitive photo match to one of the home runs, a possible photo match to a second of the 4 home runs. So again, in terms of lending credibility to the inscription, it puts the bat at the scene. And the home run that it is photo matched to, by the way, pull it up on YouTube if you like. It's a 475-foot missile, right center field, a typical Bonds home run from that period. That just, it didn't seem, human the way he hit the ball. But the bat, if you're looking for an elite Bonds gamer from the height of his career, unless you're wanting to wait for one from 01 where he set the home run record, this is it. This is your opportunity. Photo match to a home run, attributed to 4, tremendous use, absolutely beautiful looking, tremendous character. It just has everything if you're looking for a Bonds gamer.
Those Sam bats are just so beautiful too. They really are. They've got the markings on the end of the barrel. They've got a lot of personality to them, and those are just, and that with the tape job on it and the Sam sticker at the middle, it's got everything you could want, I think, too. It really is.
And every inch of it is covered with some kind of character from the stitch impressions that you were talking about, the autograph, the tape job, every single part of it has a story to tell.
Yeah, and believe me, it's hard to pick up this, especially when it's a dark bat. It's hard to pick up the stitch impressions, when you're looking on our website, when you're trying to find the lighting. But trust me, if you're a collector who loves tremendous game use, you are not going to be disappointed with this bat. The barrel is absolutely just crushed with seam impressions. Straight
from the professor right there. So dubbed by Tony Giese this evening. Great example. Joe, what else has caught your eye?
Okay, the next one on the list is the 2004 Ichiro bat. And this is kind of following up from the conversation we had earlier about Ricky Henderson. I kind of put this in a similar category. So what has changed since the kind of that Moneyball period? What has changed is players are much more encouraged and much more valued by their on-base percentage than sheer batting average. And so it's only been about 20 years since this bat was used, but the game has changed a lot in that respect. Now players, it's okay. You see a lot of players now that are hitting in the low to mid 200s, but if their on-base percentage is high, again, they're valued in a different way than what they were, in the 1990s and prior. So this is one of those records. In 2004, Ichiro broke George Sisler's record, which he set in 1920 when he had 257 hits. Now that record lasted from 1920 to 2004. But then so he had 257, Ichiro ended with 262, I believe. But now the game has changed so much where players, again, they're encouraged to seek walks more than they were then. And Ichiro, if there was one thing, if there was one criticism of his game, he didn't like to walk. If all you have to do is look up the numbers, he wanted to hit, and he could hit pretty well from last time I checked, but he wanted to hit. He wasn't a guy that generated a lot of walks. Here we were talking about Barry Bonds, who in one case walked something like 230 plus times in a season, something like that. And, Ichiro generally, he'd walk, 35, 40, 50 times, something like that. So when you think about the game today, the way it's played, the fact that guys are encouraged to take rest, and you think about having enough plate appearances. So let's say 625, 650 at bats, not plate appearances, I should say, but at bats. To get 262 hits, and I'll let Tony do the math here, but he's required to hit for such a high average, it just seems so unlikely, again, because of the the changing of the game, the change in strategy, the change in approach that hitters have today. For someone to get 262 hits in a season now, with the way the game's played, with the number of at bats required, and the batting average required, it just seems incredibly unlikely. So I don't think we'll see this record, fall anytime soon. Again, unless there's a dramatic shift. But it took all of those years for there to be that kind of a shift, all those decades for there to be a shift. And it still took that long for certainly for Ichiro to break it. But now that the game has changed, it just, I could imagine this record lasting a very, very long time.
That's a great point. I agree. It could be another 80 or 100 years before that record changes. And very cool to have one that's pinpointed to that record year. You know how much collectors love to be able to have that as a box checking with any item.
Right. And the bat is, again, as far as checking all the boxes, letter from Ichiro. There's a letter from Ichiro on top of it being autographed. So you get an autograph in the letter substantiating that it was used in 2004, autographed on the barrel. It has great use. Now, sometimes with these black, glossy style bats that are kind of one color top to bottom, it's hard to see some of the character in an image online. But there is the perfectly placed light pine tar application that you'll see when you hold the bat in person, and it's documented in John Talby's letter, in the detail. But there is that's kind of at the time, that's the kind of pine tar pattern that Ichiro used. It was a very light pattern, kind of on the upper kind of handle in the mid area of the bat, and kind of light remnants down the handle. There are also numerous stitch marks on the hitting zone where it should be. It just had, and again, it's really about the pinpointing. If you were to dream up, if you were coming into the market, you wanted to build a comprehensive game used bat collection, and you wanted an Ichiro bat, what season would you want it from? You could make the argument that 2001, his rookie campaign where he won the MVP, would be one of them. But I think most people would agree that having it from the record year in 2004, and the fact that you can pinpoint this bat, is what makes it so special, that would be the ultimate Ichiro bat. So if you're going to buy an Ichiro bat, here it is. This is it.
And he took such great care of his bats too. I know, we've talked about it before, how he had cases for his bats. He didn't throw his bat around. He took great care of his equipment. And that's also, I think, one of the cool things about this bat. It's something that he cherished the bat to such an extent too. And this one's got everything you could want.
Right. And that's what's such a great point, Tony. That's what's so deceiving about his bat, is that when you look at it in a picture, just like on online, it looks so mint looking, right? It's so nut. But all you have to do, real game use isn't how beat up the bat is. That's just poor care. Real game use is determined when you look hard at the hitting zone. And believe me, the hitting zone is peppered with a really concentrated area of seam impressions. So it's all there. It's just in an image, you're right, it looks so clean because he took such great care. And then in addition to that, the style of the bat, because it's that black kind of glossy look, it just, again, from a distance, you go, oh, wow, it doesn't look that used. And then you look at it real close and you go, my goodness, this thing was hammered, at the plate. So in any event, just a really, again, elite Ichiro bat for someone looking for one.
Outstanding piece. Another great choice there, Joe. Joe, do you have anything else for us?
One last one.
And
hopefully.
Keep going.
We got all night.
Yeah, that's right. We are going to be here all night. That's for sure. This kind of switching gears a little bit. So this is the 2021 Jalen Hurts game worn jersey that has been photo matched. The couple points here, I was looking at this lot, and there's a couple points that kind of jumped to mind immediately. First of all, and I'd love to get Tony's perspective on this, I love it when the football jerseys are unwashed. I just think it adds a little extra character. You get some of the, the grass stains you see some of the wear and tear, and some of those are actually very helpful in photo matching, of course, because it makes the jersey more identifiable. And so it makes the photo matching process easier. but I also think it gives it character because look, it's football. It's a rough game. It's a physical game. I like it when you can find one that has been unwashed. I don't know what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, I mean, what I love are the helmet face mask marks on them. I mean, some of those are deeply embedded, and it just adds so much personality to these jerseys. And you got the captain's patch, I think, which really helps set it off. And I mean, he's one of the top players in the league right now, one of the MVP candidates. And yeah, anytime you have unwashed, it adds such a layer to the jersey. And this one here, it's a beautiful color too. It's that dark green, and you got the captain's patch. You got all the bells and whistles that you could want, and you have the photo match too. So it's a great looking shirt.
Yeah, I think people, when you think about his career, and sometimes I forget how young he is. He's only 25 years old, which doesn't seem like it doesn't make sense on some level, but he's been in the league for a few years. And now, like you said, he's one of the top players and he's on one of the top teams. And, I started to think about it, 2020, he made his debut towards the end of the season, but it was kind of a short, I think the last 3 or 4 games. This was the first year he was the guy. So yes, he made a debut a season earlier, but this was his year. He was the starting quarterback, and he became, like, you could see the progression from this season to the next season to today. I mean, in this season in 2021, they did make it to the playoffs. I think they were bounced by Tampa Bay in the first round, but you could see his development, becoming a leader, becoming a balanced quarterback who could do both. He could throw, he could run. Last year, obviously, look at his Super Bowl performance last year. I know they didn't win, okay, but his Super Bowl performance is one of the best of all time last year, even though the team lost, and now they are Super Bowl contenders again. He's just 25. So when I was looking at this lot, I was thinking to myself, look, if Jalen Hurts, so much is tied to winning. He already clearly has the leadership, the physical gifts. He's starting to put up numbers, but his team is winning. And if he can get over the hump and win the big game, whether it's 1 or 2 or who knows how many in the future, then you know how that goes for quarterbacks. They're kind of raised to a different level when you start thinking about the future and things like Hall of Fame consideration and all that. But we're so early in his career and he's already developing so quickly. I think started looking at this lot and I'm like, this is a great opportunity to grab just a fantastic photo match jersey from his first full season as a starter, and who knows what's to come here. But I mean, you could see him getting better with each season.
And 2 good notes about this jersey as well. His rookie year, he wore number 2, but he wanted number 1. The punter had number 1 and wouldn't give it up, hilariously.
Of course, those punters. I don't know.
So this was the first jersey he wore, number 1 jersey he wore in Philadelphia, because it was their first home game his second year. And they played the 49ers, which sadly, as a Cowboys fan, I will say the Eagles and the 49ers were the best team in the NFC last year and look to be the best team in the NFC this year, and both have bright futures. So that could be a grudge match situation the next few years. So as you said, a lot of potential here with the second-year jersey.
Yeah, and I think we have the Super Bowl rematch coming up this weekend too. So
we do Monday night,
which is a lot of fun to watch. But I think that foundation, their team is so well balanced, and he is becoming such a well balanced quarterback that I think it's going to be fun. Barring injury, of course, football is a violent sport and people can get hurt. But barring that, I mean, he seems like he's getting better with each and every year. And at 25 years old, just again to your point, Mike, it seems like a great opportunity to pick up a tremendous jersey from early in his career, before who knows what's in store for him in the next few years.
When you're talking about players that are still playing, still in the beginning of their careers especially, a lot of that is speculation and potential. But even as a Cowboys fan, I would say there is a lot of potential with Jalen Hurts. They have a great organization going there. They have a great team around him, and he's incredibly talented. And I will also say, as a UT alum that's a Cowboys fan, Jalen Hurts is my least favorite player in the league.
I'm glad I was able to pick this.
That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. But yeah, for collectors who, and a lot more in the last few years, people have moved a lot more money into current players, modern players, players that are still at the beginning of their career. As we've talked about many times, that can be dangerous. There's a lot of risks out there, but I would put Jalen Hurts as one of the top potential if you're looking to collect somebody that you are still watching every Sunday.
Yeah, and whether fairly or unfairly, quarterbacks are judged by winning. And so far in his career, he has shown the ability, again, part of it's organization, part of it's his own performance. He's a great leader too. He's winning. He just needs, and if he can win the big game at some point, whether it's this year or next year or another year, if he continues to win with this team, people will look at him and his collectibles differently. So again, it's early, but he seems to be on the right track. So it just seemed like a great shirt from his career.
Good choice. Great work as always, Joe. A pleasure to have you on and share your immense knowledge with us. Always great to have a hobby superstar and legend here on the show.
Oh man, you're making them blush.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, man.
Your years of experience. Please let the people know how to get in touch with you if they have questions or consignments they'd like to talk to you about.
Hey, joeo@ha.com. It's an easy one to remember. Also, I go by Tony's Boss at HA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's get that hashtag.
That's fine by me. That's fine by me.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. Now get back on the phones with the bidders. And Tony and I will talk a little bit more about the items we have going on tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for having me on, guys. Good luck. Take care.
As always, when our auctions are closing, we have our entire staff is here to field calls, to talk to clients, both bidders and consigners, except for our Vice President, Rob Rosen, who recently moved to Florida. He is in Florida, not in Dallas, the only member of our department not in Dallas. And, we should probably keep it down. He's probably sleeping at this point. He's on that East Coast time, and he usually sleep early. But we got to
show him some love, don't we?
We miss him here in Dallas.
We do miss him
very much.
He is missed. Absolutely.
So, Tommy, let's run through a few of these real quick. I wanted to talk about a genre we've talked about recently that's very exciting is signed vintage cards, and we've got some outstanding examples closing tonight. This is one of my favorite, the 52 Topps Willie Mays. This one autographed by the Say Hey Kid, and you've got a 9 PSA DNA 9 autograph on that one. And then we've seen huge results for autographed Clemente cards, and what better one to have autographed than his rookie. Great example here. A tough one to find a good spot to put an autograph on, but Clemente did it perfectly here, right above the facsimile autograph in essentially the only blank spot. I love that one. And then one of my favorite cards is the 53 Topps Jackie Robinson. I love this image. And this one is signed as well with an 8 autograph from the trailblazing Jackie Robinson. That is a beautiful piece that's going to find a new home tonight. Tony, what autographs have caught your eye?
Oh, there's plenty of autographs in this auction. One of them that kind of stood out to me, the Babe Ruth 1918 to 24. It's the earlier autograph from his career. Most of the, as he got more and more popular, he did the quote marks, the Babe quote marks in the mid to late 20s. And this is one of the early formats of his signature, which helps kind of date it to early in his career, possibly when he was with the Red Sox. So I really thought that one stood out because it's a different looking signature. And we're so used to seeing his later autograph that this is the early career format from his signature, which you don't see all that often. Most of the time you see him from the late 20s until he passed in 48, but this is the early career autograph, which I thought was really, really neat.
Great example. The cornerstone of the industry, the Babe Ruth autograph. And I'm glad you picked this next one. This is one of the most interesting items and one of the best backstories in the auction.
Yeah, when I saw this, and Joe was with me, we were at the Burbank show when this came in.
Which will be back again in February, just FYI.
Yes, we'll be out there in February. when I saw this, I'm thinking there's no way this can be real. Typically you don't see a lot of Cobb signed bats, but this one just jumped out at me and we couldn't believe it. This was actually Cobb signed his bat to the biological mother of Babe Ruth's daughter. Now, when he signed it, he probably didn't realize that because this information
Definitely didn't. Nobody knew. Nobody knew.
This didn't come out till the late 1980s, I think.
1988, Ruth's adopted daughter, Dorothy, published her autobiography, My Dad the Babe, and that broke the news to everyone that Babe Ruth was her actual biological dad. Neither of Ruth's wives knew the truth. Ruth had convinced his first wife, Helen, to adopt Dorothy, and she did not know that it was his biological daughter. Babe had had an affair with a woman named Juanita Jennings in 1920. Dorothy was the product of that affair. She lived with Juanita, who married one of Babe's good friends, Charlie Elias, and that was a secret that Juanita kept to her deathbed when she told Dorothy, and the public didn't know until 1988 when her autobiography came out. So Ruth introduced his daughter, Dorothy, and his friends, Juanita and Charlie, the couple, to his friends. And very likely this bat was signed at an instance where Ruth was introducing them, and it's signed to Juanita, Ruth's daughter's biological mom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there. And the one thing is, bats weren't really that easy to sign back then. They didn't have Sharpies and those kind of pens available. And this one is as nice of a Cobb bat as I've ever seen. And with the backstory to it, it really adds quite a bit of collectability to it. But easily the nicest Cobb signed bat I've ever witnessed. And again, when that came in, my thoughts were, there's no way this is real. And then of course we saw the full PSA letter. And then when we found out the backstory of this bat, it just added so much to it and such a unique piece. It really, truly is.
Yeah. So a PSA 9 autograph and a Beckett 10 autograph there. It's the nicest Cobb autograph on a bat I've ever seen. And one of the nicest autographs on a bat, period, we've ever seen. And when
then you throw in the whole story, it just takes it to another level altogether.
It's almost 100 years old too. It looks like it was done yesterday.
I know, it's just gorgeous. I was shocked when I saw it. I really was. I just couldn't believe that it. Whoever got it signed, when they got it signed, they had to put it away and probably never brought it out too much because it just looks so gorgeous.
Yeah, amazing example. All right, a few more incredible signed cards here. This is the 1961 Fleer Bill Russell underrated card here. And what I love about this, great placement of the signature and a Celtics green signature from the Boston legend right there. Great example with a 10 autograph from Russell. And then this next one of the toughest hoops autographs, for sure, the toughest modern hoops autograph of all time. This is the signed 1970 Topps Pete Maravich rookie, iconic rookie there. And so few are signed. We rarely see them even. So that is a must-have for Maravich.
Yeah, I mean, and back then, those rookie cards, it's not that people didn't get them signed, but the thing is, they always had value to them. And who would have known that Maravich was going to die in 1988? He was the first guy on the, when they did the top 50, he was the first guy who had passed away. And people didn't get cards signed all that often. They had programs, scorecards, that kind of thing were much more popular than having his rookie card signed. And it's a tall boy too. So you got a lot of really cool features on that card.
Yeah, a favorite among collectors. Mm-hmm. And then this next one, you talked briefly about it before, Tony, but the 1984 Star Company cards, which since PSA started grading them, they've become a lot more popular and a lot more recognized, I think, as his actual rookie card, the first card that came out. And this one has a beautiful signature from His Airness, a BGS 10 autograph from Jordan there. And
And again, I mean,
like,
this is a very good example of, this card was always so valuable. And Jordan, just getting to Jordan was so difficult. Probably signed at one of his Air Jordan camps. It very likely was signed at one of his camps. But again, it's just so hard to get to Jordan. And there's not very many opportunities. He'll never do a public or signing. We don't believe. And if he did, and he signed a rookie card, there would be a huge premium attached to it. So there's not going to be a lot more of these ever coming out there again.
You can probably just approach him on the golf course and get him to sign something, right?
Give a nice cigar, maybe, kind of.
That would go.
Yeah, I'm sure that would work.
All right. Next up, great choice here, Tony. Very unique item.
Yeah, Effa Manley is a Hall of Famer. She was a team owner, and she's one of the more difficult Negro League signatures to obtain. There's only there's not a lot of examples of her autograph. I think in the early 80s there was a reunion of some sort that she attended. That's where a lot of these might have been signed. You see her occasionally on a baseball, but she was a trailblazer in her own right, being an owner of a team and being a Hall of Famer. And it's not like she signed a lot of items. It's not like she was doing shows or, she was really out there that much. I think this, they did a few reunions, and that's probably where this was signed. But her autograph is incredibly hard to find. And anytime I see one, I always like, I definitely want to see what it sells for, because Effa Manley, team owner, Hall of Famer, there's a lot of really cool points. And having her autograph is difficult.
Yeah, really interesting individual with a great story.
Mm-hmm.
And this next letter you chose has a great story as well.
Yeah, Rube Foster. I remember going to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City, and I remember seeing these signs, says no photos, and they had the Negro League, like the rules from the league, and signed by everybody, and he was on there, and I'm like, I gotta sneak a photo of this. And we were walking around the office here and stumbled across this, and I mean, it kind of stopped me when I saw it. I mean, his autograph, he is, one of the toughest signatures, one of the toughest Hall of Fame autographs, and one of the most important Hall of Fame autographs. You just don't see his signature very often. He died young, kind of mysteriously. And he's one that very few Hall of Fame collectors have been able to obtain. And it is on Negro National League stationery, which gives it even more steam behind it. Just an incredibly rare signature of a guy that you just can't find his autograph.
Yeah, he's one that for people who collect Hall of Fame autographs, it's missing from almost every collection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's just so hard to find. And when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, whoa, we have a Rube Foster? I think there's a 20,000 estimate on it, because that was the first thing I thought of was, man, you just never see him. You might go 5-10 years in between seeing his autograph. And that's a special piece.
Agreed. Another great signed card here. One of the most apt titles to a card. This is the 62 Topps Manager's Dream Mickey Mantle Willie Mays card. And what I love about this one is, first it's PSA DNA 9 autographs, but Mays signed on Mantle and Mantle signed on Mays. The two top tier players at the time. And two of the greatest ever. And I love the little switcheroo here. Mantle signed a lot of autographs, so I kind of feel like it was probably his idea, or he signed first.
That was my question to you. It was going to be, do you think it was Mantle who did it, or was it Mays who did it? Because I didn't even realize that till I looked.
Mays is the tougher autograph than Mantle, so I feel like somebody got Mantle to sign it first. Maybe it was at an event where they were together.
Mays would sometimes sign things in the wrong spot, the wrong ink, and he'd sign upside down. So I don't know, but Mantle might have been in one of his, joyous moods.
Yeah, he liked to give himself a laugh when
yes.
he was doing shows.
That would be a great story to find out who actually signed it first, because that's a pretty interesting one.
And as Joe mentioned earlier, we have what has to be the largest and most significant collection of Venezuela top cards ever offered. It is just a remarkable collection. Many entries that I'd never even seen before. That's how incredible it is. But one of the highlights is this 59 tops Venezuela Mickey Mantle. As we talked about earlier, the condition is always very rough on them. But this is a great one with Mantle. And then we had the Sandy Koufax that Joe talked about earlier. I just love that image. Very, very late 60s avant-garde image. And then this is probably my favorite from that collection. This is the 67 Venezuela tops. Jackie Robinson, the retired example. The Venezuela tops really highlighted some legends who had already ended their career. And I love this Jackie Robinson example. And it's a near mint 7, which is really high for the Venezuela tops. I think that's going to make some noise tonight. And
I do too. And you know, the whole thing on those, if you ever see them, and they're not hard, I mean, they're not easy to really find. They're usually in grades 1 or 2. Yes. You may see a 3 occasionally, but those are always just such a challenge for collectors to find it in any kind of grade, anything above a 1 or a 2.
A 4 or 5 is a high grade for a Venezuela card, and then a 7 like this one and the Koufax is
like a gem mint 10.
Will be a 10. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. They're just not out there.
Tony, when I saw this one in the auction, I knew you'd be talking about it tonight during the closing show.
Oh, absolutely. The Hulkster. You know, the O-Pee-Chee set is so popular. Hard to find these centered. I've got friends that are buying everyone they can get. And the O-Pee-Chees are just so well collected. And this is, I know there's the 82, 83 Hogan, which is considered the rookie, but this tops issue, I'm sorry, this O-Pee-Chee issue with the belt in hand is one of the holy grails of wrestling cards. It's such a great look. It's centered, gem mint 10. They're just not out there. You know, O-Pee-Chee is just notorious centering issues, just all kinds of issues. And this is one of the nicest that you could ever own. It's a classic look. It's kind of when Hulkamania got started, right, during its infancy, 84, 85. Yeah, that one to me will be something that's going to continue to rise in value.
Yeah, I love that the belt's in it.
The way he's holding the belt to us. Now he's not wearing it. He's kind of, you know, just throwing it out there. And it's a great graphics, great look. Just screams 80s. And he's got the headband on too. A young Hulkster.
The headband screams 80s, and the name popping out at you there. That's a very 80s graphic too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had to talk that one. Yeah.
And then we got the WrestleMania 1 ticket. Tony, where were you when you watched WrestleMania 1?
So we didn't go to any closed circuit or anything like that. I was 8 years old. I remember WrestleMania 3, the Hulk Andre thing. WrestleMania 1, I was just a little before my time, but you would think people would have kept these tickets. And this is a tough ticket to find. And with the ticket market and the wrestling market kind of both exploding, I guess you could say, this one here is a really, really tough ticket that you just think people would have kept them. It was in New York, it was at Madison Square Garden, but people didn't, I don't think, realize it would have the impact of what it did actually have, because you know, this could have been the start or it could have been the end of Vince McMahon, and it turned out to be the start of something that was a remarkable run. So, and they have the first too is really.
It's a PSA authentic. Pop 2 only 11 higher.
Yeah,
that's stunning.
Yeah. That is. You would just think there'd be more of them out there, but they're not. Same as WrestleMania 3. That's another tougher ticket, and that had 93,000 people. You would think there'd be hundreds of them, but there's not. People threw them away or didn't think to really keep some of that stuff back then.
Yeah, nice point. This next one is a super rare ticket. It's a 1915 World Series Game 1. So this is Babe Ruth's World Series debut. The ticket stub, this was there in the arena for Ruth's World Series debut. A lot of people think his first World Series moment was his 13 scoreless innings in the 1916 World Series. That's the more famous moment. But 1915, Game 1, that is when he made his World Series debut. He pinch hit for pitcher Ernie Shore in the top of the ninth, so just barely got into the game, and he was facing Giese Alexander, who he'd join on the podium as part of the inaugural class of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Very cool there. He grounded out, but a very rare ticket. This one, a 1.5 MK. It was removed from a scrapbook, but huge Babe Ruth ticket, and one that you rarely see come up. And then,
yeah, you don't really see too many early World Series tickets.
no.
And then when you can add Ruth into the equation, and it's a nice looking ticket too, I think. And there's not a large sample of these out there, and I don't think there's going to ever be a lot of these found. But it's Ruth. It's early, of course, the earliest of his run, and it's a really good looking ticket, I think.
Agreed. And since we had that, how about this? We also have the 1915 World Series program. This is the Boston Red Sox one. The 1915 World Series is so interesting. Fenway Park was too small for the Fall Classic. So the Sox borrowed the Braves field, and they played the Phillies at Braves Field across town. And this is a program from that. Games 3 or 4 were the only Beantown games in the series. And after dropping the first game in Philly, the Red Sox went on to take the series in 5. But yes, the program from Babe Ruth's World Series debut here. And as you can see, it's very aesthetically pleasing, as most publications from this era are. You got
the advertisements. The advertisements always, to me, just jump out. As you can see, the hats, the cars are just kind of becoming
car
popular.
ad. I was about to say a car ad. There's a couple in there. That is a great slice of history. And then you've got the team photo on the back with the Red Sox Stag brand sweaters, which are just incredible. And if you happen to have one of those that was actually game worn, please give us a call. We'd love to take a look at that.
We'll take multiples too if you have multiples.
Yeah.
We would love to get involved.
But love the old sweaters. Tony, we should get some Heritage Sports sweaters.
Oh my God, absolutely. Those old wool ones. Oh, we could wear them at the National, maybe a top hat. I mean, we could get kind of creative with it.
I'll talk to the marketing department about it.
See what you can do. Yeah, see if you can pull that off.
All right, we are right at 10 o'clock now. Extended bidding has begun for session 1. This is for the cards. So extended bidding has begun. Now for the memorabilia, session 2. You've got all day tomorrow, 24 hours to bid on that stuff at ha.com/50065. Thank you, Tommy, right on top of that. And then we'll have session 3, which will be Saturday night, which is cards and memorabilia. So a lot going on. I also want to mention we have a charity auction going on right now in conjunction with the Dallas Mavericks and the Dallas Mavericks Foundation, which will benefit from the charity auction. It is a great organization that supports a lot of great causes. You can find them at Mavs Off Court on social media if you want to support them. And there you go, win some great pieces of Mavericks history. We have gamers, including a Luka gamer, Tim Hardaway Jr. We have signed material, including signed jerseys from Luka and Dirk and Kyrie. We have signed basketballs. There's a amazing old logo Mavericks signed basketball by Luka. And then, of course, we have some great Dirk signed items as well, including the commemorative Sports Illustrated after the title. So some great Mavericks material. That's going to be closing on Monday on extended bidding. And if you're a Mavericks fan and you want to support a great cause, which is the Mavs Foundation, please check out that auction.
What about ball boy jackets? Anything back from your era?
I have my ball boy jacket from 92, 93. I do.
Wow. Heavy use?
one of the darkest eras in Mavericks history. They had 11 wins one year and 13 wins the other, which made 2011 so very sweet. I never thought I would see the day. But thank you to everyone for joining us for the show today. Always a pleasure to get to talk to you guys. Thank you to the dozens of people that help put this show on. They make it look so easy that one person could do it, but really it's dozens of people doing everything, most of them doing Tony's hair.
Hey, my camera's working now. I mean,
Yeah, they did some IT
difficulties
work
for 20 minutes. Now I'm ready to go.
They did some IT work as well.
Yeah. Great
and of
job,
course,
IT staff. Thank you.
a huge thank you to our consigners and bidders. We literally cannot do this without you. Thank you to the consigners for trusting us with your treasures, and good luck to all the bidders in the next 3 days of the auction, including tonight. And we have more auctions coming up, including a January card auction, catalog auction, and then our February platinum auction, which is the premier event in the industry every year. We do free appraisals if you just want to find out about the value of something. Tony, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I'll tell you, if they want to come and see me, I'm going to be in Chicago tomorrow. Lee Iskowitz is going to be in Vancouver tomorrow.
Right.
TonyG@ha.com is my email. We're on the road all the time, picking up consignments, meeting with our consigners. But catch us at a show. If you want to email me, you can do that. TonyG@ha.com. 214-409-1997 is my phone number. Give me a call. We can talk. We can talk the hobby.
He'll talk. Yeah.
Yes. I talked so much last weekend in Toronto, I almost lost my voice again. You get these shows and I start talking, and then all of a sudden Sunday, my voice is kind of gone.
Once he loses his voice, it's just bear hugs. So
yeah, exactly.
Get to the show early. Get to the show early.
Exactly.
You can reach me at mikep@ha.com or message us on any of our social media platforms. Would love to talk to you there. Good luck to all the bidders in the next few nights, and we will see you next time.